Chapter 7 Wind and Weather. The wind direction has an important influence on the expected weather. You can often be given a wind direction and you will have a pretty good idea of how the weather will change and what weather can be expected with that wind direction. Chapter 7 will give you an insight into the relation between wind and weather at large. Weather is the day-to-day fluctuation of temperature, moisture, and wind currents. It is driven by nuclear energy received from the sun. As the oceans and continents as well as atmospheric elements like methane and carbon dioxide heat up or cool down, high and low temperatures create atmospheric pressure resulting in wind or the movement of atmospheric constituents like water vapor, dust, and gases. The factors that affect wind. First, Earth's tilt and the sun. As the angle of the Earth in respect to the sun changes, so does the available energy received from its nuclear furnace. The current axial tilt of roughly 23.4 degrees creates 6 major wind belt zones divided by 5 lines of latitude. As the Earth orbits the sun, the angle of the sun's rays changes across the globe as a direct result of the Earth's axial tilt. The closer the ray's angle of entry is to 90 degrees, the greater the amount of energy that is retained. As a result, latitudes near the equator receive more of the sun's energy throughout the year than higher and lower altitudes. Wind belts. The equator at 0 degree latitude divides the northeast trade wind zone in the northern hemisphere from the southeast trade wind zone in the southern hemisphere. In respect to the wind belts, the equator is known as the equatorial doldrums. The host latitudes are located at 30 degrees north latitude and 30 degrees south latitude and divide the northeast and southwest trade wind zones from the zones known as the prevailing westerlies. Above and below the prevailing westerlies at 60 degrees north latitude and 60 degrees south latitude are the polar fronts, dividing the prevailing westerlies from the polar easterlies. Third, wind belts and wind directions. Simply put, the direction of the wind flows associated with wind belt zones flows from the direction indicated within its name. That is, the northeast trade winds flows from northeast to southwest. The southeast trade winds flow from the southeast to the northwest. Fourth, the Coriolis effect. If it were not the Earth's rotation, the winds would simply flow in relatively straight paths from north to south or from south to north respectively. But the Earth does rotate, and as a result, winds are deflected to the right in the northern hemisphere and to the left in southern hemisphere. This effect is known as the Coriolis effect and adds greatly to the atmospheric airflow mixture and weather variability. Fifth, sea and canyon breezes. Localized winds like those found along a coastline are created by similar forces. As the sun rises, the water and the land absorbs the sun's heat at different rates. As a result, high and low pressure systems are created. In the morning, the land will heat up faster than the water. As the land heats up, it radiates heat to the surrounding area. Hot air is less dense than cold air, so the warm air begins to rise, pulling the cooler air over the water inland. As the heated air rises, it begins to cool, flowing out to sea until it grows cold and dense and falls. This cycle reverses as the day closes and sun begins to set. Not only does the land warm faster, but it also cools faster than water. As a result, the circle of air flows reverse and warmer air above the water flows towards the cooler air above the land. As a result of the movement of atmospheric materials transported by the wind, driven by the energy from the sun, climates are created and weather occurs. This brings us to the end of chapter 7. Without wind, weather would not exist. Wind, in its independent relationship with the other cycles of the earth, like ocean currents, is the vehicle by which water vapor and by consequence temperature variations are moved from one area of the globe to another, creating weather variations within specific